You and I with Rashmi Shetty is a human library audio podcast bringing in stories of people you and I can draw inspiration from. Welcome to the third season of this amazing story listening journey. Ordinary folks, extraordinary lives, their uniqueness and individuality, making them interesting to talk to and to listen to. Each one of them completely connected to the voice in me and with motivational stories of moving beyond themselves to make a difference in the world. A reaffirmation of the fact open your eyes wider. The world is far more beautiful when we acknowledge the presence of both you and I. Our first guest in 2025 is Vandana Suri, the founder of Taxshe, a World Bank and UNDP awardee for creating safe mobility solutions for women and kids. On the one hand, they have women cabs driving kids to school and tuitions, and women to offices and late night airport drives. On the other, they train women clients to self drive and just get off the risk of abuse in public transport. Taxi has been around for over a decade now and created 1.2 million abuse free drives and has trained more than 2,500 women to be driving independently. Vandana is an ex investment banker turned cabbie and a proud driving instructor. She believes it's important to be mad to ignite revolution. A TEDx speaker, Vandana has won multiple awards, the number she's lost track of, but believes very strongly that what actually counts is how many women have joined the revolution or got impacted by the same. Listen in as Vandana shares her inspiring journey and how she has faced every challenge life has thrown at her head on. Hi, Vandana. Such a pleasure having you on You and I with Rashmi Shetty. I have read so much about you, such a huge fan. I am curious for somebody who had such a beautiful career to what you're doing today has been a really transformational change. And I'm sure there are so many inspirations that led you to do what you're doing. But I'd like to know what little Vandana was all about because you're so full of life, energy, and you're always laughing. Were you the same as a little girl as well?
Oh, I was quite a brat. This gender identification, I think I identify as a man. I don't know if there's any such thing. I was a total brat. I remember beating up boys when I was small. I was that little girl where, the nobody wanted to have girls like that. I was the one protecting my brother from the boys.
And where was your upbringing, your childhood? Was it in one city of India, or did you travel quite a bit as a kid?
No, I grew up in Mumbai, in Chembur, cute little place called Gulmarg Society. I've been a Mumbai girl, but I'm in Bangalore now since 25 plus years.
What shaped you is what I'm curious about. Was the atmosphere at home very competitive, where you were told that you should do well in studies? How were you as a student? And extracurricular was part of your curricula, or you didn't focus too much on it?
I was the nerd, partly glass, the nerd who wouldn't talk to anybody around them.
Mm.
I was absolutely that person, non-social, full day only into books and stuff like this. Extracurriculars was nowhere on my list. I did learn karate. Again, I learned how to beat up people. I think that was what was pulling me on. I don't know. I came last in every single race, but I always came first in skipping for some reason. I don't know why. If I can't run on the road, how can I run with all those wires in between my legs? All
Oh,
Ajib stuff happens with me.
no, no. So I think clearly obstacles was something that you were good at avoiding, overcoming, or challenging for sure. But where did the brat nature of yours come in when you were such a nerd? Because nerds are normally not people who would get into fights, they're always lost in books. So where was this bratish Vandana in the picture when you were calling yourself a nerd?
So I grew up with a brother, and we grew up in a joint family with all girls and one boy,
Hmm.
or the same age. And I realized like I was so duh that my cousins and my brother and all were bullying me on small little chiclets. So we used to get around in a circle and put one small chiclet in between and then count one, two, three, and whoever picks it up gets it. And I was like the duh waiting for my turn. But every time the chiclet would go somewhere else. And I think that's when I better do something about it. Maybe I don't know. I'm just talking my mind out. Maybe that's where I realized that, oh, these bullies can't get along too much. You can't. So maybe it was an anti-bullying strategy.
Yeah.
It was so cute talking about all this.
From there, that little Vandana who was a nerd. Was it a very natural progression that as you went into higher classes as a topper, you moved into the sciences like all the herd decided that the nerds go there? Or was it a very conscious choice that you move into sciences? What was your journey post your 10th standard?
I just realized that everybody in life was telling me you're so matured, and I was somewhere I realized, oh my God, I'm not enjoying life. I always belonged in a group of friends which were 10 years my senior. So it's like when it came time for the disco, I was with 10 years senior people who say disco is not happening, and then 10 years later I was like, I missed the disco age. You know what I'm saying? So I wasn't here and I wasn't there. I guess always a misfit. um, I think around 10th standard, I was actually telling my son I used to be the topper in school, and I went and paid a in Bombay. Everything is about classes.
Mm.
You go for classes for everything, right? We grew up that way. So I went and paid money into these classes where they take like 95% and above wala bachas. And I was sleeping through the class, although I was that 95% wala bacha there, but I was sleeping through the class. Interestingly, I left those classes after paying all the money there. And I went and joined one of those really sidey classes where, 35% wale bacche aa jate the.
Mm.
Okay. But the thing was that 35% wala bacha, that particular classes used to get them to a 65, 70%. So I thought, Arey, this is very interesting. Like 95 वाले को तुम 98 लाके दो तो क्या ही तुमने कर लिया, but somebody is doing 35 to 70 is interesting. So I went in those classes. There was a place called Srichand class over there, and it was a total jhalla place. Okay. But oh my God, the amount of fun I had in that class is just being a normal little girl. I'm no longer a scholar who has to prove myself to every place and just be a teenager. I had this mixed group. I'm 48 today, and that group continues with me in all this. I think that particular year of the fun was like, oh, I can live this, you know. I loved it. So some things happen in life where you kind of change. I didn't take science. I took chartered accountancy because I don't know why I didn't take science, although I was very eligible for the science class. But I think I wanted to just enjoy life a little bit, like thoda kar hi leti hu.
No, no, but when you took this decision of moving to the 35 percentage or 38
Yeah.
percentage group, there was nobody at home who told you don't do that, it'll bring down your
No,
quality
no,
and
no,
stuff.
no. No, in fact, my brother was a year older to me and he had started teaching in those classes. And I realized that this boy he had become a teacher. He was just a year older than me and he was already a teacher in those classes. So the point was that the way they were teaching they were fitting theorems and all onto songs and Tapori songs ke tune ke upar they were fitting theorems. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Till date, I'm not joking. When my son was studying his physics and his chemistry formulas and this, I was teaching him the same style like I learned there. The
Mm.
entire all those theorems and God knows how many formulas. I was teaching them with all Tapori songs, and the fun of it was so high.
You moved clearly. So where was your performance placed after 10th standard in the
No,
11th and 12th? Where were you?
I was a phenomenal player, but you know what? I failed in my graduation. I actually did my graduation in supplementary exam. In Bombay, they call it ATKT.
Mhm.
Okay, like from being a topper all my life to failing my graduation.
Mm.
सीए का वो टाइम एग्जाम हम पास कर गए थे, मगर graduation, that basic dumb duh graduation, I failed. So I realized just anything can happen with anybody. There is no guarantees at
Mm,
all.
mm.
So sometimes I see my son, and I remember in his sixth standard he failed in his class, and he was like really crying and this and that. I said, "What are you crying? Your mother also failed. See," I was encouraging him that nobody bothers about all this later. It's
Mm.
gone with the wind.
Yeah.
And he was very excited to see his mother had failed. It was such an interesting conversation. One of my friends told me at that time, Ijaz, he's a good star now on serials and all. And I remember when I was crying and telling him, "Yaar, Ijaz, a person like me failed." And he said, "You know what, Vandy? बड़ा ज्ञान दिया उसने मुझे." He said, "Life में ना exam है ना, it will always come back again. Other things in life don't come back. You don't get a second chance. But exam में how many chances you want?" I said, "Oh, this makes sense."
No, what your friend said is true as far as exams are concerned. But life also at those moments, see, today when you look back, it seems like, yeah, that's so true. Nobody remembers all that. But at that point, for the person who was always consistently a topper, a nerd, to reach
Yeah.
that point of failure, well,
Yeah.
what did it do to you? And what were your thoughts about how you're going to overcome that?
Surprisingly, it didn't bother me so much. I was going through another trauma in my life at that point of time. I was 17, yeah, and I was facing sexual abuse by my own cousin brother. And today, I didn't put the pieces together, but then when I look back and I said, okay, this is that same phase where, I think mentally I was like screwed or whatever.
Mhm.
And maybe this was what was going on in my head for
Mhm.
somebody who's a performer. But somewhere I don't know, I always feel that with all these experiences that you have, um maybe these are all the stepping stones to where I am.
True.
I recall a very horrible incident when I was 5 years old, where one of my uncles made me touch him wrong. And I remembered that it doesn't go out of your mind. So an abuse that happened at 5, an abuse that happened maybe at 17, it puts the grit into you, I tell you. I really, today what I'm doing is a healing for everything that possibly left that mark. So I think it's a beautiful, I was meant to be here. So it was life situations making the path for me to get here.
Beautiful, and thank you for sharing that. Because as you moved forward post commerce, what was your next option and how did life open up for you? What did you have in mind when you applied for jobs? What did you think life has in store? Or you decided to just go with life?
Honestly, this was again life path getting formed when you look back at it. You see that very interesting. There's a game, no, Temple Run.
Yeah, yeah,
Have you played that?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then the damn thing opens up, and then you're in this route, and then you're in that route, and then you just start jumping on.
yeah, yeah.
So after doing my CA, etc., uh, I applied for a job, and I applied for an accounts person with this Whitefield Honda, the
Mm,
Honda showroom in Bangalore, and I applied for a job there. So when I went for an interview over there, the guy took an interview for like only 2 minutes. So I was like, hey, what is this interview for 2 minutes? So I remember that same friend of mine, Ijaz, na,
mm,
who had told me about my this. I called him and I said, "Yaar, 2 minutes ka interview to tha." And he says, "You write in the register, right?" So he says, "How many was the other people?" I said, "No, less than a minute, yaar. I was still 2 minutes." He said, "You got the job." But you will not believe that I actually got married into the family. So that job opens. I went to work. I fell in love with the guy who interviewed me. He was the owner. Ishq ho gaya. शादी कर ली.
You didn't tell us how you moved from Mumbai to Bangalore. At that point of time, you randomly applied for a job in Bangalore, and that's how
No,
you.
no, no. We had moved from Mumbai to Bangalore
Okay.
during those riots, right? So
Uh-huh.
first we went through those December 6th wala riots.
Mm.
Okay, that Babri Masjid thing. That time I was still in 10th standard. So it had kuchloed us as it is, like everything. Just yesterday, I was talking to somebody about this and reliving those moments. And after that, then we had the bomb blasts in, I think, another 2, 3 years' time. I come from a business family. So my parents decided was this is not the place to be in. One of my uncles was already in Bangalore, and then they all moved here. So
Mm.
that's how I came to
Bangalore.
Bangalore to meet the love of my life, to get married, to get divorced, to have kids. Everything, there is a path which is written, was it? Nothing happens. I mean, imagine the one guy upstairs, how much stories they write and how they keep plugging in. The whole thing is very interesting.
And it's so beautiful now at this point when you look back and see how each of them came into your life for a reason. And
Yeah,
some of them
absolutely.
stayed for a season. And then you moved on, they moved on. And life really shaped us to who we are. You got married. And then what happened in life? Was it, again, this was unplanned. This is not something that you had planned and come to. And how did life go on? What were the different paths that you took to who you are?
Actually, I got married. I married into a very rich house. I was one middle class, so I got married pura Hindi movie style with
Hmm.
all the kalesh that happens. Twice before the marriage, my mother said, let's just run away in the night. Nobody, I don't care what the world will say. Like, this is not a place for you. But interestingly, life went on. I loved my husband no matter what. He stood by me, but he had a bipolar disorder. So then we went through rocky situations of the bipolar, and one fine day he just left me and my 1-year-old son with just $100 and fled the country. Because of his bipolar, he started taking loans in the market and stuff like this, and then getting into his depressions. And me and his father would pay up his loans. And then again, when the next high comes, the loan cycle went on. At one point of time, without notice, in half an hour's timeline, he just left me with a child and 100 rupees in my account. And that was like, oh my God, what happened? I don't think we fell out of love. So I don't think marriages break not only for love. I think there are a lot of factors around it. And then he just fled the country and called me after a few hours and said, I'm going off to Canada. And I'm like, oh, like, yeah, I didn't even know where that hit me. So I think life, the struggle, the strength, the resilience started at that point,
Mm.
because having a 1-year-old infant in my life and $100 was like, oh, I don't have money to eat
Mm.
right now. Forget about raising the child. What do I do? So there was a very interesting turn of events. I realized that, and I always tell all women who go through this, I said, at that point of time, two things are happening to you. One is your emotional breakdown, which is going to take time to develop back. It's not going to come back easy. You're like rattled around. Okay. And then the other thing is the financial breakdown. Whether you were dependent on the person, not dependent on the person, you suddenly know that your backup is not there.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to addressing your life, then you choose, do I address this first or that first? And I feel addressing your financial part is actually the easier part of things than addressing your emotional parts. So, there are a lot of women I see where emotionally you're battered and you stay in that slump for a really long time. But in the meanwhile, your finances are also all gone. Your dependency on somebody else, you're like a creeper on people, and everything further pulls you down. So today, when women come to me for advice, women who are moving out of their marriages or going through hell, I'm like, pehle na cement your financial part, then address your emotional. It has to be addressed, but let it come a little later. What is the low hanging fruit that you're going to address? Think smart. So this is where women go into a total deeper hole.
Mm. Mm.
Mental therapists and all your coaches will say I'm talking bullshit, but actually this is what has worked for me. At
Yeah.
least one portion of stability that you need,
Mm.
you
Mm.
know
Mm.
make one thing stable, then attack the other thing. Everything you can't do together.
True. How did you start building your financial capital then?
Oh,
That.
crazy. I begged people for a job. By the time I was married to one of the richest families in the city, so I was page 3, and nobody was willing to give me a job.
Mm.
How can she work for us? It was like a pseudo celebrity status. How will somebody like her status work for her? And I begged, like I really really begged.
Mm.
I have the worst possible. I've fallen on people's feet also at that time. I actually thought I'll become a hooker at that time because I realized, oh my God, where is the quick money going to come? And then I realized, oh my God, I become so fat, I can't become a hooker also. So I actually felt so dejected. Like, I can't do this also, man. It was that level of hitting you in the face. Okay, what do you do? But, anyways, so then I begged people, and then I got the lowest entry level job in ABN AMRO Bank, which was a sales job, and I was a nerd. So I had never sold a thing in my life. But I said, जो भी है. So by the time that, and those days, I'm talking 90, whatever, 2000 something, 2004. By that time, my house kharcha used to be 1 lakh rupees a month then. And I got a job for 17,000 rupees. And I said, hey, listen, it's better than the 100 bucks I have in hand. Jo mila is better than the zero. Let me start. And I was into sales. So touch wood, I made loads of money in sales. I think you just evolve. I think there's that need, that hunger that
Yeah,
I want to reach here.
yeah.
And that's that, like that fire under your ass forever, you know. And it
Mm.
just kept me going. 3 months I made 17,000 bucks. After that, I never made less than 1 lakh rupees in a month in my life because I knew, okay, that's what I wanted to reach at, without which my house can't run.
So, didn't you think at that point, normally when we are confused like that and suddenly something falls and just fit in like the jigsaw piece there,
Hmm.
didn't you at that point think, okay, this is set, this is what my future is going to be all about?
No, I didn't think. I didn't have time to think. I was literally like, that Temple Run game is very interesting. Okay, I don't play it. I've seen my son play it, but you just go with the flow. I
Mm.
don't think there is time to think at all. It's a firefight mode for life. No, I
Mm.
don't know, but then people are firefighters. People do firefighting as a career. No,
Mm.
they live with it. It may be very difficult for someone,
Yeah.
but it becomes a regular thing for people. So I think firefighting became my regular thing.
Mm.
So I don't know. I
And how long did you go on that? Sales is one of those jobs where you meet interesting people
Oh
as well.
yes. Oh
And
yes.
conversations build beautiful connections as well.
Yeah.
So, what happened to you in the job? I'm sure you evolved as a human being, as a professional. A lot of learnings happened consciously, unconsciously. So, how did that entire career shape you?
I think the confidence built up like seriously well. I think the past behind me was also an interesting booster that अब इससे नीचे क्या जाऊंगी. You're already at zero. There's only an upside. So I feel that zero is a very interesting number. I've seen it multiple times in life. But I must tell you this experience. When my zero is coming close, no? So I feel like I'm drowning in the water. So that I couldn't breathe, and I'm gasping for breath. But then there's one at the bottom of the swimming pool, no, there's one light over there, and there's this huge red zero over there. Okay, like a big button. And then I swim up till there and I hit that zero buzzer. And then the water starts throwing me back. Okay. And this has always happened in life. Take my word. I see my zeros. Now I know that I'm going to drown and I'm going to hit that zero and bounce back. I've seen it so many times. It has some spring effect to it.
Mm.
So, uh, honestly, the zero doesn't scare me only. Now it's like, oh, we're going down. We're going to go down. And my brother's like, aren't you scared? I said, नहीं नहीं अभी और नीचे जाएंगे zero पे आएंगे. Then we'll bounce back. Relax. So it's like, I know I have to reach there and hit the button. It's not over yet. So when you're sliding down, no, like okay, let's slide down in peace. Don't gasp for your breath. Let it slide down and hit it and come back.
Wow, this is such a beautiful metaphor, Vandana, what you just said. In life itself, if we use this as a
Yeah,
metaphor, I think when you know you can't go below this,
yeah,
the button is more a reminder for you than for anybody else around you that, okay, now is your time.
yeah.
And how, in that sales job that you were thriving so well, how did you take it further and where did it lead you?
It led me into a lot of controversial conversations with my bosses. Very few women in the banking sector,
Hmm.
and even lesser who would stand up for what they believe. Like there were times that you're selling things, you're selling investments, which you don't understand what you're selling many a times. Like, it's all a
Correct.
lot of jargon, and I couldn't sell that for nuts, but it was affecting my numbers. And I
Hmm.
was like, how do you care what I sell? I'll sell what I'm comfortable about selling. You have to get your revenue in the bank. That's it.
Hmm.
And not just ABN, I moved a lot of banks, so it's the
Hmm.
same place everywhere. The point is that I'm like, just leave me to get you your income in the bank.
Hmm.
Don't dictate what I should sell. I have a knowledge, but I have a comfort with certain products which I would buy myself. So I will sell that only. They didn't like it too much. I mean, I was always that extra one who talks out, you know. But I think touch wood, I stood my ground. It's very difficult to stand your ground.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult space, especially with such less women in the industry, and
Hmm.
uh, eh, but I think I stood my ground. So I think again that strength that had come in life was very important. That I don't take nonsense anymore. I have a home to feed, and all the rest of it all fa 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 fa. I don't care.
Hmm.
So sometimes I think at a point in time you're like, I really don't care. I'm going to do what I want to do. The defiance of that yes sir was
Correct.
not really happening with me. So somewhere that entrepreneurial kida was coming into the play. And
Hmm.
then one day, very interesting thing happened was I was reading about this rape in the Uber in Delhi. There
Hmm.
was a very large case.
Yeah.
Before that, 1 year prior was the Nirbhaya incident that happened.
Hmm.
So the Nirbhaya had anyways shaken us up all,
Yeah.
but armchair wrestling was going on during Nirbhaya.
Hmm.
But I faced abuse in my life as a child, as a teenager, so I know that feeling. Maybe it was very less as compared to a Nirbhaya, but we all women, we are all Nirbhayas in our own lives in many stages, I would say. Maybe not rape, but
Hmm.
we know that feeling. So then, when this rape happened in Uber in Delhi, the next day, the headlines, it was, I remember, I still have that newspaper cutting with me. And it said, so it was all about the rapist and this and that. Then I could read that one little line in that whole newspaper, which said, you know what, if there was a woman driving me, this would not have happened. That was that one line in that paper. I don't know, I can't find that line anymore, but it was there in some interview of that victim. And yeah, I said, this is sense. This absolute makes sense. This is a no-brainer, right? Why are there no women driving? So, end of story, I just cut myself away from my investment banking so-called sales job. And I said, you know what? I have enough guts in my life. I can drive, bloody, I'm going to be a taxi driver. That was it. Like, that button in your head, it just, and then you can't listen to anything. It's like falling in love,
Hmm.
right? When you love someone, no, then the whole world will tell you you're doing stupid decisions and you're pagal, and but this is what happened with Taxi. And I
Hmm.
said, no, I have to do this. I cannot sit quiet. I'm going to do this. So my mother just fell out of a chair. I told her I want to be a taxi driver. She was like, what happened to you? And I said, see, and during that time in the financial side, now we had seen a lot of those crises, that Lehman Brothers, and we had seen a lot of that. And she had seen a lot of stress in my life with targets and stuff like this also. So, but single mother, I need the money, and so I told my mom, listen, I will drop children to schools. Okay. It's the year-long business, man. I'll keep them safe also. And it's like a school van. School van has business all through. So then my mother just looked me in the eye and you'll bring 40, 50,000 bucks home to run the house. Food will come on the table or not? I said, food will come. She said, okay, do it. So again, the simplicity of the entire thing, but that I think the calling was so high that to give up the comfort of an amazingly paying job,
Hmm.
the status, the single parenthood desperation that I cannot have a salary not coming to my account. And then there was this.
Hmm.
So uh, uh, I just jumped in. I didn't have a plan B or anything. I just knew that this is where the temple run was taking me now, and I had to go. I was into it. I was
Wow.
sold out.
Okay, so your idea was the steady income is going to be the school children, and the rest of the day you'll run your vehicle as a taxi, is it? How did
I
taxi come in?
Yeah, taxi ko actually again I wanted a very simple name. I thought women cabs ye wo and all, and I said taxi ko taxi kar dete hai bas. Let's just play on the word, and that was the end of the story. It was a very simple, just pun on the word, and we changed it.
Yeah, so there's one vehicle. Usually, if you're going to ferry a lot of kids, then you'll need a bigger vehicle, right? And
Yeah,
you use the same vehicle as
yeah,
a.
yeah. I thought I'll take a Maruti Omni and start. No, it's
Hmm.
like uh, what, like,
Yeah.
but that also got, like, I don't know, that I think the calling is so high to
Yeah.
there's
No,
nothing
but
else.
were parents receptive, Vandana? I'm very curious.
No, they loved it.
Oh, okay.
So very interestingly, I put up a post in Facebook. That was my first public post. I had never used Facebook for work ever. I
Hmm.
had no idea on social media, nothing. I just put up a very from my heart post that, listen, I want to start a woman taxi service. I did not talk of kids with nothing at this point of time. And I want to start a woman taxi service for women. And can somebody refer some drivers to me? So I did a call out for drivers. Driver तो कोई नहीं मिला वहां से, but I got some 3,000 calls that day. And I was like, oh, this is good market, man. This market is right here. I mean, 3,000 calls. I didn't have time to go to the toilet. Madam, can you send me a cab here? Madam, can you send me a cab here? I said, oh, this is a booming market out here.
Yeah.
Even this children's segment, na, it came out of when I started ferrying. I became a driver first. Chalo,
Hmm.
drive karke dekh le. I became a driver first, and then I realized that when I was driving children, no, to uh, little girls, I think my first time were two little sisters who I was taking to the swimming pool. Okay. I was in Jalahalli and very far away, and I'm driving all the way 40 kilometers to drive those two kids to school or to their swimming class. But experience and the joy of driving those two little girls, and the joy of thinking how much they're cackling in the back seat, and the joy of thinking as a woman, as a mother, that these two kids won't be touched wrong with me, right? It just takes the cake. So then I said, oh, let's drive kids to school, man. I'll enjoy also. I'll hear all the tutter putter behind. I didn't have so much time with my own kid. This is fun. Even my girls, when I started searching for drivers and all, they were like, oh, taxi, I don't want to drive any Tom, Dick, and Harry. I'm scared in the nights.
Hmm.
So that's big. That's when my own experience started coming out. I wouldn't drive men in my car at all. Why? He can do something to me, right?
Hmm.
Who's God? I'm a safe man. No, not all men, but yes, every man. That was going on in our head. So then I said, oh, this kiddie thing is good. Kids are safe. I'm stopping abuse over there. I'm also earning a living over here. This is good. And then I can do women. They don't need me in the daytime anyway. So we started making a whole business model around kids in the morning and women in the evenings.
Okay.
मस्त है बहुत अच्छा है I'm telling you, it just like jelly. It just keeps forming. You
Hmm.
you decide in what katora you want to put. It will take the shape of that. You know.
Love this, love this. Okay, so now you had your vehicle
Yeah.
and you decided you're going to go ahead and start the driving yourself. But how did your fleet start? Uh,
Uh,
did every woman who joined you have a car? Clearly, no.
no,
You
no, no.
were
Nobody
looking at
had. They had
women.
nothing.
Yeah. So how
No.
did all of them come in? How did this model become bigger to what
Yeah.
it is today?
Yeah. So I started. I needed more women drivers. Nobody was coming. Facebook से तो कुछ भी नहीं हो रहा था. Circle में all the middle class women said I can't be a driver. So it was out of question. So I started walking down the slums. Okay, because I said, let me find somebody,
Hmm.
who needs a job. I remember one day I was looking for this particular lady. Somebody referred, I know this nurse, maybe we'll start with that. I said, okay, let's walk down. I never walked in a slum before, but I mean, now I wanted to go. This very lovely incident happened that day. There was this girl, she was a 6-year-old girl, okay? 5-year-old, 6-year-old, that full pavade and all, the South Indian Gagra choli, and she's dancing on the mud, one big heap of mud over there. Now, I'm in Karnataka and I don't know Kannada. Kannadigas don't kill me, but then I don't know. I can understand, I can't talk. Yeah, but the point is that I went into the slum and now everybody's talking Kannada. Then now I don't know how to communicate. So this little girl, I asked her in like in very tuta puta Hindi, English, like even nurse idhar rehta hai, tum janta hai kya? And I was like very weird. So she just looked at me and she said, I know English. I said, oh, wow. God sent. So, so she was like, I said, oh, ये तो translator ready है मेरा यहाँ पे. So I never found that nurse. But I asked this little girl, can you translate for me in English? And that vegetable lady is there, can you translate and talk? I literally had a 6-year-old holding my finger, walking down the slums and telling the sabji wala, this lady will teach you in driving, you want to talk to her.
What a beautiful sight would that have been.
My God, it was amazing. And then I kept going into the slums. They thought I'm some politician coming here.
And
So
she
one
was
day
the one who
I
helped you find your first few people?
oh no, then she gave me a lot of courage that I can come back and I'll find
Ah,
somebody to
okay.
take me through. I didn't find anybody that day. I found a lot of curious eyes and
Nice. Yeah.
like what in the world is happening in our slum kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the curiosity, the message had gone out and the gossip would have started then. But then I one day wrote a cold mail to this St. Joseph's College over here. They
Mm,
have an organization called Headstreams.
mm,
So they have a socials where the kids, college kids are involved with the social segment. So I just wrote a mail to them. Blindly, I was sending mails to all NGOs. I was
mm,
just blindly sending. So this one gave me a response that, oh, we'd be very happy to tie up with you in this project and all. I said, very good. So they have their own mobilizers who are women, possibly from that segment, and they started this thing of mobilization for me. They found me one or two leaders in the slum who would go speak, and I would also go for those meetings. And I learned what was so there are these chit fund, like
yeah.
we have kitty
Yeah.
parties, no, in the
Correct.
upper
Correct.
segment, there's the
Yeah.
chitty pitty. It's
Yeah.
called chitty chit fund ka, you
Yeah.
know.
Huh.
They have the best banking network, man.
Yes.
Amazing. 100 rupees. All of those women put every month and they lend it at some 24% per annum. Whoa, those self-help groups. Okay, amazing. Maybe being a banker, understanding this. Yeah. So I used to go in the slums and sit down on that dirty floor with flies around and, kachra everywhere. And they started watching me. Is she coming every day or she's just going to be one politician and come back after 1 year kind of thing. But I kept doing those sessions in the slums and telling them till they started connecting with me on a woman level. No, what she's talking makes sense.
Mm.
Let's, so that glamour element of ये कौन है, that class differentiation, ये तो रोज हमारे साथ कचरे में ही बैठ रही है, that kind of mellowed things down. The communication became easier with, of course, some mobilizers who were, but it was not a bhashan giri. It was like, oh, this lady comes here every 1 week, she comes. People used to go shopping on Saturdays. I would go for chitti parties,
Mm.
you know. And slowly, one after the other, something started trickling in. I started talking to their families that, I'm going to drive only children and ladies only. I will not drive men. Your girls will also not do this. So slowly, it was a very long gestation time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, okay, we got through it. We went lower.
Wow. So very clearly, the intent for you
Hmm.
was absolutely crystal clear.
Yeah,
And I think over a period of time, it went across. Language didn't become a barrier then. It was
hmm.
more your body language that spoke to
Yeah,
them
yeah,
on the trust
absolutely.
that got built.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. So,
absolutely.
do you remember the first lady who came to you and who you mentored completely into a driver?
Yeah, there's this lady called Bhargavi. She's still with us.
Okay.
She's a big time mobilizer with us. So Bhargavi was the leader who actually took us into the slums as well. And she was the first driver with us. She's a shorty. She's 4 feet something, 4 feet 8, 9. And it's 10 years. We finished 10 years yesterday. And she's still with us, although she doesn't drive now because now she's like my knee is paining with the clutch and all. So menopause, everything is caught up. But she still becomes that leader, that person out there who goes and mobilizes women, talks to women. She's a total leader.
Mhm.
Still 10 years. Loads of people have come, gone. She's stuck on. She's very much here.
Yeah. Okay.
And
And
this
have you ever asked her what made her just stick on? What is it? Because for you, it is your seed, your child, your
yeah,
brainwave.
yeah,
But
yeah.
for Bhargavi, what is it that made her continue in spite of whatever challenges she had?
Yeah, she in fact came to us part-time. She was working in a parlor.
Mm.
So from there, she said, I'll just do only 2 hours a day. I'll come morning and once in the evening. I said, okay, whatever you come. Beggars can't be choosers, jo aata hai, tu
Yeah.
hi to.
Yeah.
But I think somewhere she sunk in to the cause of why we were doing this. And I had to make, I think every girl who comes into the system as a driver, I have to make her that leader. I have to tell her that, listen, you may have faced all the rubbish in your life.
Mm.
You may get more money than this also anywhere. You become a maid, one cook, you possibly make more money than this. But this is one place you'll get respect.
Mm.
You're wanted. You're not wanted. You're not being thrown apart as a woman. You are actually wanted because you're a woman, because you're going to take care of somebody's child.
Yeah.
You're a mother. So I said, you are changing. You may be a nobody at home. Okay. You may be having the most abusive life. But here you're changing the country. It
Mm.
is your contribution to changing this. And that sticks on with everyone.
Mm.
It really sticks because it's the woman, the mother that I'm talking. I'm talking of a higher purpose here. I'm not talking about a job. It'll pay you enough to get through. Good. But you're so I don't think women are ever shown their purpose in life, right? And then your self-worth just goes up. And that's what works with Bhargavi and everybody else who comes into the system.
Okay. So, Vandana, when you look back for the journey that you have shared so far, the brat who did not want to be bullied and as a result found a way to fight back, to the student who was a topper but chose a class which had 35 percenters to understand life and use that joy of studying and learning.
Yeah.
Moving on into a sales job, investment banking, where you were meeting people. From that nerd, you moved into a
Yeah.
job where you had to talk and sell and convince people into investments. To today, thinking of an idea based on a line from an article which you saw, which was your trigger for finding your purpose. It's very clear that intention was what drove you from something where you were living every day, every minute for what it is to a bigger purpose,
Yes.
right? So you knew it, Bhargavi experienced it through you. But is there any story where your clients came back to you to tell you that or affirm to you that yes, you are on the right path? Because people spend their whole lives finding their purpose, and many of us don't, maybe. But you found it very beautifully, very beautifully. And these triggers don't happen with a long conversation or sitting under the Bodhi tree. It comes, like you said, from a sentence maybe of somebody else's experience. So Is there any client feedback that told you that, yes, Vandana, this is what you're meant to be? Glad you're doing it?
My clients, touch wood, 10 years, I know every single one of them. Okay, we've done a 1.2 million abuse-free drives till date. And I have every client, every parent's number on my phone. They all have personal conversations with me. And they're just parents. Oh, they love me. My clients don't leave me for 10 years. They don't leave me. They fight with me in case they get missed out and they didn't fill up the application form for the next year. And the seat went. I've had people pounding on my door, why you didn't call and take my trip for calling you back. I said, listen, I gave you a form and I don't know if you're going to continue next year, you're getting shifted. But I've had fights with parents. So it's so important to them. There are play schools which we were driving who changed their timing to suit us. So let's say the play school had a pickup at 8 o'clock, and I'm like, sorry, my girls can't reach you before 8:30, they're somewhere else. They've changed the timing of the school. Yeah. I mean, that's how critical it was to a school, to a parent. And I remember there is this one client of mine, Lubena, she still exists with me. She shares the same birthday as me, so I feel we're like kindred souls somewhere. Very interestingly, she took a driver with me, this lady called Vijaya. And Lubena had this horrible parking, which is like a 70 degrees on reverse. It's horrible. Okay, you cannot go nose in because you can't, there's no turning space inside the thing. So she took Vijaya and she went 70 degrees reverse. Every day she was doing fine. One day, Lubena called up screaming through the roof that Vijaya has crashed the car. So in that 70 degrees going down, you had to take the car ekdam straight only because there were those grills on the side. So again, the space was very less. There was just an inch space everywhere. So after 6 months of driving her also, Vijaya scratched the car. So I was like, okay, I'm so sorry. I'll pay you the money and I'll get it made and I'll send you another driver if you do want to continue. I was very embarrassed. She's like, I'm more bothered about, telling my husband because he'll say ladies can't drive. Right. So it is not about the scratch. It is about that woman man thing in the house that will happen. I said, I'm so sorry, Betta. I mean, I can't help it. It's happened. And the next day, so I asked her, Lubena, I'm sending somebody else. She said, no, send her only back. I said, are you crazy? You want me to send the same girl back? And she says, yes. If I don't take her now, her whole spirit will get broken down. I will teach her how to do this reverse. I said, baby, everybody needs a client like you, man. You know, she and she's so sunk into my company even now, right? She's like totally like, she's like my guardian angel around the place. Sometimes I'm very depressed, I'm very low. She's like, I hear you, wait, let's do something. But I think my clients are all very involved with me. And I think it's just the womanness that I don't know. And it's run 10 years without a single ad. I have not done one social media marketing. I don't know what it costs to put a Facebook ad. It's just gone by word of mouth, by clients referring. It's beautiful. I started training clients how to drive in the pandemic. Like one new vertical in itself came up, right?
So that
They're
was my
so
next question because everyone
yeah.
went inward in the pandemic, right? Movement outside on the roads did not happen in the pandemic. So, how
Yes.
did a business like yours thrive? What did you do at that point of time?
I went mad.
Hmm.
There is no I was what I was at 17 years back at that zero.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was horribly broken down. We did do a little bit of drives. We got some four passes from police after a lot of requests. But like I had 56 girls there, four will feed how many people, and. So this was not something we could do from home. And I was back at that $100 position, and I applied for a job to Ola also because I said, Abhi company band. I had to let go. We paid them salaries for 10 months, all my girls, and then we had to let go every single one of them. So I went into huge personal debt. Uh, you know, now I was not zero, I was under the water this time. Zero to gaya पीछे से. I was 70 lakhs under the ground for a middle class person. It's a lot of money. And I thought I'll have to shut the company. And I told my investors, we're done. And sorry, but this is all I can do. And I went applied for a job to Ola. 4 months they took to respond. And I'm like, one startup founder of a woman cab company is writing to them and they're taking 4 months to respond. They're like, they're not grabbing the opportunity crazy. But anyways, so then I finally, you will not, very interestingly, I also have an NGO which gets CSR money. So that year CSR also didn't go. It all went into Prime Minister Relief Fund. So the point is that that time, one day before my interview was at 11 the next day, and 5 o'clock in the evening, the earlier day, some tiddly piddly money came into the NGO's account. That was again that sign that you're not meant to get out of this. That zero, that little hope that came in. So the next day I went to Ola and I said, well, I'm sorry, I'm not going to join you guys. And the guy asked me, why did you come for the interview? I said, now that some money is coming, let's do business. Since I'm here, why should I lose this opportunity to talk to the CEO of the company? And then that's when he threw a very interesting idea to me. He said, you know what, I've heard about your training, what you're doing for your women drivers, and you guys are fantastic. Can you train 15,000 women for Ola? Oh, smell the coffee, here's opportunity. So I told him, you know what, I can still train, but I don't have the capacity to train so much. But I'm going to hold you to this. Lots of mails went up and down. I said, I'm going to build my capacity and come back to you. And that was the birth of a totally different vertical, because I realized that my training, I had trained all these marginalized communities girls. My training had a stamp in the market that I was so good. That was also a time where the second wave was happening. The second wave where we didn't get ambulances and we were all, and it was around the same time where I had women clients of ours, parents only. They're like calling and they're saying, listen, we have a car here in the house and my husband is dying and there is no ambulance which is coming. Uh, I don't know when we'll get out of it, but once we do, can you train me how to drive? And I said, oh, okay. Then they only told me, तुमने गरीबों को सिखा दिया, अभी हम अमीरों को भी सिखा दो. So I actually, that was the cusp of a new business vertical with no money, with no staff, nothing. I was at literally zero. I let go of everybody. And I started training women how to drive, and that became a full-fledged vertical called Taxshe Break Free. It's helped us survive these last 4 years. And again, it's just that same thing goes on multiplying into something else. It's that same ingredient of driving. And I realized, oh, I'm creating safety like this also. It started as a business thing, okay? But I realized I want women to be safe, okay? In the whole country, including me and God knows how many companies, there are hardly some 234, 300 women on the road as cabs. But if I start training women to self-drive, there I'm again creating safety only. Don't expose yourself to the cab का risk होनी ना, खुद ही चलाओ, कहानी खत्म. Like, get onto your defensive mode. In 1 year, I managed to train 2,500 women in driving. I'm like, whoa, this is good. The business started picking up so much. Now I realize I can't do all this myself. So I went in and I talked to corporate women who lost their jobs. So many of us lost their jobs. I said, hey, listen, if you know how to drive now, I'll train you how to become a trainer. Come. 15 days, I'll train you and get you rolling. So we started franchising the training model to more and more women. Amazing. Amazing. Today I have a presence in Gurgaon. I have a presence in Coimbatore. I'm in Mumbai. I'm in Bangalore. Hopping on to possibly starting in Chennai, Goa, Hyderabad. It's that fire. This is like the relay, the baton. You can't do it on your own. But this is also that when you come with that intent and a clean, clear purpose, people join up with the purpose. It's meant to happen. And I know that I'm igniting this. My job is to be that fire which will start that fire. This is that revolution. It's still a small flame itself, but there are another 13 women who've taken the flame. Hopefully there'll be 300 one day. So I'm not letting the flame die. I'm waiting for it to surge. You just protect that diya and you keep so it doesn't go down. But that fire can be good.
The title track of Diya or Tufan is
Mm.
where they talk about the power of the diya in the tufan.
Oh,
So
I must listen.
go
I don't
listen
know.
to the lyrics. One of the jobs I did was an RJ for old Hindi songs. So when you talk, no, everything is metaphorically coming as a movie song to me.
Yeah, yeah.
So Diya or Tufan is what you represent, how you face life. And it's so beautiful, Vandana, the way you are telling your story and how this little light within you, which kept coming back to you every time, because my hashtag is voice in me.
Oh,
And that's
wow.
about getting connected to that divinity within that voice that speaks to you constantly, wanting to take you to your purpose. And I feel that talking to you, another word that I thought this year I should completely believe in and execute is intention. And I'm so glad that the first podcast of this year happens to be with you, who's a perfect example for both voice in me and intention. Because
Right.
life has so beautifully put it all together for you. Like Steve Jobs said, looking back and connecting the dots. I'm
Yes.
sure your design is so beautifully coming out now for you to share with every woman that all of us go through ups and downs, and many of us just sit down and say, okay, now what? I can't. And you are that person who removes the T, the apostrophe, and says, you can just get up. Just
Yes.
get up. There is something within you. Spot that. And I think we need to take just one step. The universe puts the 99 steps forward and connects the disconnected to make it all a beautiful picture
Absolutely.
that we are connected. Oh my God, this is such a beautiful story, Vandana. When you look back, what is that one thing you'd like to tell women in particular? Because a lot of us sometimes just give up when things are not going our way. So, is there any one specific thing to women in particular? Maybe, especially now with all the recession, have lost their job, they don't know what to do, they're scared to try something new, get out of their comfort zone. And you've constantly done that. You've always gone outside your comfort zone to try the next thing that life is throwing at you. So you have always gone ahead and taken that first step to face life head on. What would
Yeah.
you like to tell women who are in that moment of can I not, what to do now? What would you like to tell them?
So I tell women, take your decision, just think about it. What have you got to lose? Ask yourself that question with wherever you are. You're possibly at zero, ground level. What have you got to lose if you're doing something? You see, what am I going to gain and what am I going to lose? It's a financial decision. If you have nothing to lose, no, then chak the dunyadari, just go. First, get what you want to get. See, nobody looks at the struggles below. They only see that glamour element. Oh, she's reached here, arrived here. That time, everybody shuts up. But that call inside your head, that what have I got to lose if I do this? If you don't have anything further to lose, no, or you're not losing what you already have, just go do it. I'm
Hmm.
not talking of just money wise, I'm talking of mental sanity wise.
Okay, and three life lessons?
I'm telling you, being mad is good.
Yeah.
No change in life will happen until you're mad enough. So
Hmm.
don't discount your madness. If people are saying you're mad, kuch to hai usme bhai. People don't like people with sparks, huh? You're dangerous to them. You're like a lighter. You can burn them. So don't they don't like you. But then you have to understand the power of that light and that lighter. Yeah,
Yeah.
so being mad is very crucial. Today, in fact, I just made a reel today as in if you're a mad woman and people are saying that you're mad all the time, just come and join me. That is the entry level in the mobility industry. You just have to be mad.
Wow. Okay. Second.
The second learning I would say is there's a purpose to you. To be yourself. There are times where you are not able to see that purpose. So
Hmm.
you let yourself float, but don't get that thing out of your head. That kida in the head is a good kida. Don't leave it unattended for too long.
Hmm.
Don't let anybody squash you down. There's something. I never thought I would be here. But look at the way life is. In fact, imagine I married the richest guy, and you think today, if he was in my life, you think he would have let me be a taxi driver? No, he had to get out of the way, the way to be cleared up, right? So there is always a reason why things are happening, and you have to be able to see that ahead, so don't discount that. The third thing I would say is that, yeah, for women who are like so dependent on a man, oh, life is beautiful without them. Sorry, it's beautiful. You can have a man in your life as your best friend. You can have a man walking next to you as a lover, but don't get into this existence. I exist because of this guy. No, you don't exist because of this guy. And it's okay when these guys get out of your life. They're just clearing the way for something else. So your life existence is not based on somebody else who's telling you who you are. It's you. You respect yourself, everybody respects. Be yourself. Don't be what others want you to be. That's my life learning. I'm happy being single. I love it.
Clearly, you're loving the life that life has gifted you, and you've taken the gift so beautifully, accepted it, living it, and being that catalyst that women need around you. Thank you so much, Vandana, for what you do. God bless you. Stay blessed. And this has been an amazing start for you and I with Rashmi Shetty, because the you and I is all about the uniqueness we carry and the individuals that we are. So exploring that and dissecting that is what the conversation was about. But I think without any effort, you just did it yourself this time. And thank you for just bringing yourself completely for this conversation. Stay blessed and continue inspiring.
Thank you, Rashmi. Thank you for having me here. This is fun. This is fun. This is a good outlet for the message to reach out.
Thank you, Adina. Bye. With that, we complete this episode of You and I with Rashmi Shetty. Do let us know if you know inspirational people whose story needs to be heard. You can write in at rashmi.the3rd@gmail.com. That is rashmi.thirdeye@gmail.com.